is the Diary of a Lady Band Director podcast.
All right, I am Diary of a Lady Band Director, and today is going to be a little interesting because uh, I'm in my car. And if you know anything about Bandtober, you know that there is an aftermath to Bandtober, which is called Bandvember. And I'm now in Bandvember. Football team made it to the playoffs, and that means a longer day, and gotta sometimes do what you gotta do. So Krystal Two Phones, Diary of a Lady Band Director, is broadcasting from her phone and TV. And we got on the stage tonight Jason High and Puff Antonio Barino. And I'm kind of allowed them to introduce themselves before we get into the topics of tonight. Jason, how about you go first? Jason, you're on mute.
Well, there we go.
There you go.
Thought I had it on. Good evening. I just want to say first, I apologize. I was all set up. I had my microphone, had my audio compressor, and everything set up, getting ready for the podcast. We got moved back this week, and I forgot in saying, "Yeah, that's cool. I'll do it." That I was going out of town, going to a concert. My wife's taking me to for my birthday, so we on the way there. But I am in Albany, Georgia. Um, Started off as an engineer and then worked a little while, didn't like it. I went back to school at 32 years old to get my music education degree at Albany State University. Taught for basically 15 years. And as of right now, I have not been a band director for the past 18 months. I finished out the 23 school year and actually started a business on my own, and I've been doing that. So kind of got to work the rust out a little bit. We'll see.
So you did how many? So one, let me get back to an important thing.
Mhm.
When was your birthday?
It's going to be on Thanksgiving Day. I will be 50 years old.
You'll be 50.
Yes,
All right,
ma'am.
you ain't doing bad. I wouldn't have said 50. I wouldn't say 50. So you doing all right. And it's interesting. I wanted you on the show because of what you just said. You did not start on the path to be a band director, went back to school, and then said at 32, I'm gonna go be a band director. Now I understand that because my husband, he's not a band director, but he went back to school for music
Hmm.
in the latter part of his life. So, he's got a few credits to finish up, but he's in the IT world and
Okay.
literally just this year, maybe a couple of weeks ago, resigned from his long time career with Sharp. Sharp to make the TVs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He's a technician. So, we know tech people make pretty good money, and he wants to be poor like the rest of us teachers. So,
Yeah.
and- but he's gone into private instruction and stuff and actually doing pretty okay. So thank you, Jason, for spending a little bit of time. We're going to try to keep it pushing so you can get your words in. All right, Prof. Barino, got to unmute and introduce yourself. Still can't hear you. Got to turn all the way up.
How about now?
There we go.
All right. So, yeah, native of Holly Springs, Mississippi. If you never heard of it, don't be surprised because most people haven't. Man, small town kid just happened to have a love for music that turned into a scholarship to Grambling State University. that turned into a degree from Grambling State University and sparked a teaching career. Um, you know, taught in the Macon County School District in Tuskegee, Alabama, while also serving in a graduate assistant and a ranger role at Alabama State University. Currently finishing my PhD in music education from the University of Memphis. Pray for me. We are at the
We praying
dissertation
for you.
stage. Lord. But also to uh, the point made earlier, uh, I actually kind of ventured away from band a bit. I wanted to see what other areas of music education I could get into. And after serving briefly as assistant band director at Alcorn, um, I had the opportunity to come to Talladega College in an administrative role, in which I was to oversee music, the pretty much the music area, and I made the conscious decision to move to just faculty from there, and went back down to, as many would say, the peasantry of college instructor. But it honestly was one of the greatest opportunities, and now I serve as coordinator of music education at Talladega College. And we're bringing in professional organizations that these students hadn't had prior to, also serving as an instructor of music at Talladega College. So I can truly say it's been a beautiful journey. I sat down and counted up the years and was like, wow, that really happened. And it feels like a yesterday type deal. And still got a ways to go. So yeah, looking forward to the
So,
conversation.
oh yeah, this is gonna be real. And just to kind of as a background, I thought you two were very unique in we have some crossover where I left being a band director too after the pandemic. I had some people who, kind of the hater tip felt like my approximately 2 years not in my own band room meant that I all of a sudden wasn't a band director anymore. Even though I started doing I did about 5 honor band conducting gigs, maybe 6, and judged some all state, and judged some festivals. So I was a festival judge. I still judge every now and then. It's kind of hard when you are a band director because there's a bias. So I can't judge in as many counties as I used to. But I left it willingly. I said, nope. If this is how it's got to be, I don't want to do this. And of course, sometimes it's a calling that calls you back. And I came back, an opportunity came up, and I said, well, let me go ahead and try again. So let's get into this. Um, I think an important question to ask both of you is, why did you want to be a band director? I asked my interns that. So Jason, you can start first. Why did you want to be a band director? Because the title
Um,
is everyone shouldn't be a band director.
right. I coming out of high school, I kind of had my feet in two different areas, and I did well with both of them. I was not only I made All State 3 times in high school. Once as principal snare drum for seventh, eighth, ninth band. Once as principal timpanist for All State Orchestra my 12th grade year. And at the same time, I mean, I was very into that. All that goes in it with the time spent marching band practices, all that stuff. But I also was very good with math and certain areas of science. I was star student in my high school because I made a 790 on the math portion of the SAT. And everybody, oh, you're going to make a lot of money. You're going into engineering. I had made up my mind in eighth grade that I was going to go to Georgia Tech. I was going to major in computer engineering, and that's what I did. But it ate at me a little bit. Like, would I enjoy this more? I don't know. Kind of weighing, both hands, and just figured, okay, let's go where the advancement and the money thing will be. And I nearly left school in the middle of Georgia Tech. I kind of had a crisis of conscience about it, and I remember making out my pros and cons list. And my dad, he felt like he had pressured me into doing the Georgia Tech thing, which I would not say is true at all. But he actually took me to Valdosta State. I was looking at their music program because I had called University of Georgia, and they were already like, "Oh man, we've had our drum line set since April. It's kind of too late right now." And so I went to Valdosta and looked around, and then just ended up deciding not to do it to stay on track with the engineering study. And usually I'm the type of person that, when I start something, I got to see it to the end or it'll drive me crazy. So
Hmm.
I thought to myself, well, after I do engineering, I could try to, do some music stuff out of my house. I actually ended up doing a studio internship at Doppler Studios in Atlanta, in 2002. Got to see a lot of big name stars and that kind of thing. And I thought that, that may be the beginning of some type of a career transition into doing music in other ways. That didn't happen, and it's something that just kept eating at me. I didn't enjoy cubicle work, and I just felt like I wanted to do something that meant something, something that I was good at using, something that I knew were specific gifts that God had given me, and I just couldn't get away from it.
And it's that thing, like, I don't know, sometimes you have your way out, but then it keep, I don't know, it's like a moth to a flame. We just keep going back.
Yeah,
But it
and I mean,
seems
I actually quit a job and sold a house and moved 3.5 hours back to my hometown to go back to school and do it.
that's crazy. That's crazy. And I drive 90 minutes to work to be the band director at a very specific program. Barino, why did you want to be a band director?
Um, so mine is, I guess, a little simple. It was the only thing I gravitated to. I was a kid that had a lot of different avenues to choose from, but there was that one thing that really stuck with me. And transparently, I was a little bit troublesome, like many kids. I can truly say teaching has been a karma, in that I got everything back that I ever did to any teacher, because that was just the way that life went. um but it was to a point where I ended up failing seventh grade, and there was that day that I came home, and it was like everything in my room was gone except the bookshelf
Ooh,
and the
she went
bed.
old school.
And I'm like, hey, what in the world? And band was snatched from me. I was snatched out of the band, and I can truly say the drive to get back to that. And my high school band director, Mr. Jerome Smith, was a wealth of knowledge for me, but he really lit a fire under me that I didn't get every day. You know what I'm saying? From every teacher. Um, but he really stayed on my case about a lot of stuff. Put me out there to, I became a student director. This guy gave me finale because he was, in a nutshell, tired of paying for arrangements. He was like, hey, you're going to learn.
I know
And,
that's right.
taught me a bit of the basics behind it. And then set me up with honor band at the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, where I auditioned for that, and it was something that really stuck. And man, it just continued from there. And I truly say music saved my life, and therefore it's something I elected to give back to. It's something that I wanted to give back to, and specifically band. I didn't come from a program where we did a bunch of. Oh, I have a visitor. I feel like Mr. Rogers, but didn't have a whole lot of exposure. Didn't do concert band, any of that. But yeah, that's my story.
And see, it's like that. And a lot of people say like band saved my life. And we're not even joking when we say that sometimes, because for many kids, band, if it wasn't band, they don't know where for band, they don't know where they would be. And of course, that desire to find that kid that's like you and be that kind of beacon of hope, like you said, for that kid sometimes is where we hope. Um, Mine is quite simple. I walked into a Roosevelt Pratt's band room and I knew. I said, "This is it. This is what I want to do. I'm sold." It was just like music was my outlet. I was very quiet, very shy. I know people don't believe this. I was very quiet, very shy, and music was my language. So that's why I did it. Let's get to this question. After your first 3 years, were there any misconceptions you had about band directing after being a band director for after those first 3 years? Because those are critical. Do you think you had any misconceptions, Jason?
Um, First 3 years, I mean, I taught when I came out of school. It was in the middle of a school year. I graduated in December, so I actually taught a year and a half teaching technology at one middle school, and then a middle school band director job opened up, which is actually the school that I attended. And so my first 5 years was at that middle school. Um, so no misconceptions. The only thing was it was so different from when I had been in school because they're on the AB schedule and they do the Friday dollar day intramural things and all that kind of stuff. And so the stepping on class time was really hard for me to come to grips with, and something that I took heat for bucking against a lot of that. Um, but as far as misconceptions on the middle school level, no, I don't think so. Somewhat with the high school, I knew there was the politics with the high school about this is what everybody wants out of you, but this is what you really want to be doing. But facing it in reality and seeing the degree to which that came, that was a little bit different. But I can't really say that it was a misconception.
Yeah, you expected it, but maybe not on that level.
Right.
Um, and it's something you said something that's important that we've talked about in other shows about seat time. How much time is a kid
Yeah.
actually in the seat learning versus doing other things outside of that seat time, and that does affect your product, and it can get annoying. It messes with your
Yeah.
plans.
It got really bad. I there's different years where I've kept up with certain things. Like one year I kept up with how much of my own money I spent. One year I kept up with how many hours did I work. And my second year at that school, I kept up with class time. And so I watched this one particular class, my eighth grade A day, which was considered my concert band, my advanced band. And that principal, they did that intramural stuff 10 times in the first 12 weeks of school. And so the first day of school was on August 1st that year. And so I saw my eighth grade A day on that Friday, August 5th. And we would alternate Fridays. So it would be ABABA, ABABB every week. And from that Friday, August 5th, I did not see that class on a Friday again until January 6th. That's how
Yeah, I
bad
had
that
that
was.
type of schedule. Yeah,
Yeah.
those schedules suck, and that was the bulk of my career was these block schedules. Everybody takes band, nobody gets a choice. They're only in band for 9 weeks. So a lot of the bands that people were judging me on, the kids were being banned for
And
9 weeks and then
and the kids that
gone,
wanted to be in couldn't get in. Yeah. Yeah.
couldn't get in. And then I got another 9 weeks. It's another set of kids. So can you imagine trying to get kids a festival and you only gonna see by the time that group came in, for me, the third quarter is festival time or assessments. I've only had them for 4 weeks on an instrument. What you gonna do in 4 weeks? Hot cross buns and what? Page 8 and accent on achievement or whatever, you know. So I get it. That was kind of for me. And Baltimore City, a lot of our urban areas, a lot of our inner cities and rural areas have these block schedules that are terrible. That it was discouraging for me. What about you, Prof Marino? What did you any misconceptions after those first three?
I had two. And it was because I was on two very different levels at the time. For the grade school side, I realized, I thought, hey, I'm here, I'm going to build the band, and all of my time is going to be devoted to the band,
Uh,
and I'm not going to have any interference, right? Yeah, no, no, not at all. I didn't realize that we would be acting substitute teachers, and, my class would get canceled, kids getting sent to this, that, and the third. This was not in Macon County, by the way. But by the time that happened, it was like, hey, we're expected to be getting ready for this at this time. And yeah, what my fine arts person doesn't know is that I'm actually subbing for English today. And I got a sub for math tomorrow. So yeah, it's a heck of a situation. From the college end, I think I really thought that, we had a very big collegial buddy system, because I watched all that as we referred to them before, the old guard. We watched how they had this great camaraderie with each other,
Hmm.
and it seemed like they had all the love in the world for each other. No, no, it was a different monster. I'll leave that one alone. But I'll say that it was different, and I realized it was a lot of unnecessary separations, and I just learned to treat it as, when you walk into the room, regardless of how they are, how they act, or how they carry themselves, you continue to be you. And
To
it's
thy
it's
own
been,
self be true.
yeah, it's been something that's worked out pretty well. Um, are there some that are still a little different towards me? It is what it is. It comes with the territory. Um, you just keep it moving. And it was always about the students for me. It was always a major student focus, and it remains a major student focus. So I could really, not gonna say care less about how certain people feel, but I will say that my primary focus is the student.
And I think when you're young, you care about like band for the reasons that you love band. Like I want to have a good group. I want us to be the best. I want my kids to love band, but then you get kids that don't want to be in band, and your focus has to be different. You can't now you're trying to you might not be able to teach a kid to love it, but you might be able to teach them to respect it. Because you get lessons A through Z and it's 120. That was my highest number of dumping ground. And it was high school. I said, you know what? I have to just make them better people through music. And that's what I can do in this environment. Um, and sometimes that better making them better people was marching band heavy. March Man Heavy, especially where I was teaching before now, because the school I'm at now didn't really want a marching band. I mean, they didn't, I don't want to say they didn't want one. They just didn't even bring it up in the interview because it's a performing arts magnet. That's not their focus. But after a couple of months, I was like, but we need some school spirit, some camaraderie, and we don't have a marching band, but our sports are good. So this just doesn't make sense to me. But uh, here's something that comes up a lot, and I'm putting the question in the chat. While y'all are reading that, I just want to say that I have merchandise. Got some hoodies starting to be cold. Don't steal, women. Do not steal, the sweatshirts and hoodies of men. Just buy some Diary of a Lady Band Director merch. It's 30% off, and you can stay out of, your closet. You can send that message to your wife, Jason. Um, Properino, you can send it to your special person. Tell them to buy a hoodie, and then save your college hoodie for you, or whatever your favorite hoodie is. Without that being said, um, this is the question: is the emphasis on marching band at some HBCUs and PWIs giving future music educators a false narrative about this career? Oh, you're thinking, Jason. Oh,
Well,
Greeno
no, I
turned on
mean,
the camera like,
I've been thinking, but I was just wondering, are we going to start with me? I mean,
yes.
the only nit I would pick with that is, saying a false narrative. I think it's giving a false narrative to the public and to administrators about what they should expect out
Mm,
of secondary educators. I definitely had a problem with it, especially I finished up my career with 3 years at my alma mater, and it's amazing how far gone the idea of concert band and all that was. I mean, I never I couldn't get it off the ground. I was trying, and They all year. Matter of fact, I yesterday I was riding around the vicinity of my high school, the place where I last taught, and all of a sudden I hear marching drums, and I'm like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, they must be having a pep rally or something." No, they're marching over to the technical school that's about half a mile up the road, and they're having whatever they call homecoming or whatever. But it's like uh, every community relations thing in the area, Head Start, uh, elementary school, AR pep rallies, whatever. They want you doing all of that stuff, and it's like it's always that. It's always some kind of program they'd want you at, and it's like that the concert band stuff, any of the other things like honor bands, jazz band, none of that stuff was on their radar screen at all. And they just want to keep you busy. They wanted me to be at basketball games too, all of them. And then as soon as the new guy took over after me, he told me that he had people from volleyball and softball approaching him, wanting him to be at all those games. I mean, just that alone. I mean, you might as well get the football, basketball, baseball, uh, volleyball supplement like all the coaches do if they're gonna have you doing all that stuff. It's
Let's talk
impossible.
about it.
And I
If
gotta
I
say
gotta
honestly
be at
too,
all of it, this little
yeah,
$5,000 stipend ain't it? When I could have made that giving private lessons in about 2 months. Let's be
right.
real. If I took these clock hours somewhere else, so just not the having the comprehensive side, um, kind of well-rounded, or and some people don't feel like that makes you well-rounded. I'll
Yeah,
play devil's advocate, but
and,
just kind of
and
having the
just to
exposure.
make sure, I don't leave this off too. I kind of hate that it seems like there's one and only one flavor of that everybody thinks everyone is supposed to imitate. I was looking online the other day, and it was actually Antonio is one of my Facebook friends, and he posted a video of Grambling playing their alma mater back in, I don't know, I think it was 87 or 89 or something like that. And just the difference in the tone quality I hear there, I'm like, man, why aren't people playing like that anymore? It's all just high in the instrument range. It's
Transitional.
all brassy, thin sounding all the time. And it drives me crazy. I'll cut it off there.
Uh-oh. Reno, you have the floor. Oh, we not gonna dance. We in we're in the thick of it. We're in the thick of it. No dancing
Um,
around it.
so, uh, Jason, I will say, I think a very big problem, before I answer this, somewhere along the lines, identities got lost. And everyone started to chase one to two organizations in the way that they do things. And what
You can't
floats
out
them,
Southern Southern.
I you are, ooh boy, she
It's my
okay.
show. I can say what I want to
So,
say.
but I will say people that college directors have to understand, some of us are students to this game and understand what used to be. And, what floats one boat might very well sink yours. It's probably why you'll never see FAMU not be FAMU.
Sam,
You
you
understand? The day that they start doing something else. So yeah, even when with that 1985 video of the alma mater, it it was something, just reminiscing. I'm like, why didn't we play it that way? Why didn't we express it that way? But it also, there's more I could say to that, but a lot of mm, we ain't gonna use the term pedagogy. We're gonna keep moving. What we're gonna talk about is the question at hand. Man, I think that, with PWIs and the HBCUs, that bar is very high. While also in some cases, depending on the institution, being probably not as high. The issue I have with it, I don't know if, I think Jason mentioned the administration seeing it and thinking that. And I have been in that room where there was that principal when I was just doing observation. It was like, oh, yeah, I see on his resume he went to Grant. Oh yeah, he went to Grambling, and he went to Bama State. Oh, we gonna get that band up there. They gonna do some butt shaking now. No, no, that was not my cup of tea.
But I'll admit there's another side to that coin too, because after I left that job, the guy that came in after me was talking to the AP that had the conversation with me that made me decide I didn't want to be there anymore. And I can talk more about that later. But this guy actually said to the new director, couldn't they play something like Carnival of Venice?
Oh wow,
I mean,
that's hilarious.
give me a break,
Wow.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the thing for me that's interesting, and this is not a knock on any of the high school directors, man. I got much love for everybody, but this part is gonna suck a little bit. Somewhere along the lines, the fundamentals and foundational material went in the cracks, and somewhere you have several, in some cases, several high schools that are chasing the sound of some of these collegiate groups. And be clear, some of these collegiate groups are doing things that we hear it if we know. You hear that trumpet player he under there, he up there, but he definitely flat. But we gonna let him live today.
Right.
And I'm not doing any dissertations on that, and I sure don't want to hear any about, I know how big band works. I know how the jazz era was. I understand all of that, but this is a different frame. Um, what also I've noticed with the HBCUs, unfortunately, we have not. I don't know if I'll say we haven't put it out there as much, but we have a very big responsibility to show the other side of the coin with what we do. I think
Yeah.
if we had a balance in those two, then yes, I think we have something to work with, and the secondary students will have more to work towards. I'm more prone to sit down and do some of these concert pieces versus year-round marching band. But it also, as I say, that's to the discretion of the director.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've often made a point about it being our job to open up their horizons and
right.
give them things that they wouldn't have if they didn't have us. There's things that they're going to get in their normal everyday life that they don't have to be all we do is reinforce that all the time. They're going to get that anyway.
Right. We are the exposure piece that they often need and otherwise don't see. So yeah, it's man, it's that's
I'll
an
I'll add
interesting
this
topic.
to I'll add this to the marching band piece too, and that is I've had to have this conversation with kids a lot. You're not going to have 40 high schoolers sounding like a 250, 300 piece
Thank you.
college band. And when they try to do that, it'd be like, yeah, I've asked somebody about that with basketball before. I see middle schoolers, they're having to heave the ball from their chest. And I'm like, well, does that mess them up? Because they're not learning the form that they would use to shoot the ball the right way because they're not strong enough for it yet.
I
So,
think the scariest rhetoric to that point, when we would get students in at any of my even now, you'll hear the dialogue between the students and you'll hear somebody say, "Oh, you ain't loud enough." Or you're not loud. And I think somewhere along the lines they assume that's what we are. And I think the role of the director should be important to say what you just said. Hey man, it's 40 of us. There's 250 of them. Yeah, loud is gonna be the last problem that they have. They could play piano and still carry. It happens all the time. So it's a lot in the teaching. Um across the board that has to happen. And I say again, it's not a criticism because I'll say for me, I have not had the luxury of being a head band director at a high school yet. Who knows what the future holds? But understand it's not a condemnation, but I think a lot of times I've seen what happens when they get here with certain mindsets based on what they think it is that we do at that level. Yeah. Well, while we're
Yeah,
killing time until Crystal somehow discovers her signal again,
yeah. Go ahead.
I have nothing. But we're gonna kill time until she gets here. Yeah, man. So man, uh, I got nothing. What are your biggest challenges today in your current role? I hope she don't
Well,
ask this later.
nah, well, I doubt it. I'm totally out of it at this point, to be honest with you. This is the most band thing I've done in about a year and a half. Other than I did, go park and talk to that director yesterday when the band was out playing. Um, I've had a couple of opportunities to go work with people, be it concert band or otherwise band camps, and I don't know. Whenever it came up, it was just like it didn't really work out, but I really had a piece about it. Like it was almost like God saying, "Hey, man, don't worry about that." And I was going to mention earlier, one of the things too, honestly, toward the end there with me, that kind of did me in was the time it takes. And when I started off as a high school director, I really lived at that school, and I was proud of it, and I owned it as my identity that I was at work all the time, and that's what I did for fun. And I was divorced. I had uh, two daughters that I would get every other weekend on holidays or whatever. And when I got married again, and now I've got a 3-year-old, just trying to put that kind of time in. When it's time to go home, I was ready to go home.
Uh oh, something happened with the big echo.
I'm muting myself.
I think Crystal got in the studio.
You good?
I'm here. Is that Crystal? Are you back?
I am behind stage, but I am not
Ah,
on stage.
ah. See what
So
happened?
I'm stuck in Narnia.
Oh, that happened.
Well,
Well, it
Julian's
looks
trying
like
to.
you're there.
There's a question there though. It said, "Oh, there we go. I see my forehead." Uh
We see you.
oh.
I see you.
All right, bet. All right, my bad. I don't know what happened. I was stuck in like the sunken place for a little bit. I said, "Uh oh, the band gods. The band gods must be like you done said something that's gonna shake in the world. I shouldn't have said you can't out southern. I don't know. Maybe all the I call it great values versions like cancel. Somebody said sprinkle
That
some
that that's
bad
funny. I didn't realize that was exactly what you said, because I used to say that about another band in town. We had Darty High School across town, and I would tell them we can't out Darty Darty. That's what I used to say. So yeah, that's
darty.
Yeah. And again, to that point earlier, like there's a thing even with Southern, and we're getting close to the Bayou Classic, so this is probably the nicest thing I'll say about Southern,
Here
at
we go.
all. But honestly, the thing that is their makeup, if you were ever to see that group rehearse and honestly understand the talent that they have there, like it's unique. That's why many bands can't, easily go up with them
yeah.
and have success because you're trying to do what they're doing. There's a
I've
whole
actually got something to say to piggyback on that. Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
there yeah, there's a whole philosophy there. This whole thing of crank, and I won't go into it, but
Yeah.
when Mr. Jackson talked about it, he had a chance to talk with him. He was I think he was guest conductor at Grambling, and I had a chance to really listen to what he had to say about crank and how people took it and misconstrued it as take the biggest breath you can, push all it was about their articulation, but we don't talk about it. We won't talk about it. It had nothing to do with
Yeah.
that part.
I had the same thing going on when I was teaching. I called them color guard, but our dance line at the first high school I taught at, I said, y'all see this stuff on YouTube and you want to imitate the part that you want to imitate, but you don't imitate them girls stay facing forward the entire game with a smile on their face and never look to the side and talk to anybody. I've been at Albany State and seen those Passionettes doing their little stallion step they do for 20 minutes at a time with set your legs on fire. Y'all not imitating that. Y'all not imitating the work ethic. You
That's
just
right.
want to imitate what you think you see them doing right there on the spot without putting that kind of work.
You're not imitating the work ethic. That's like, why can't we get that? One, my college band director, a lot of people don't know, Dr. Mouse, he used to travel with Southern. He used to quote stuff to us about how hard they work. And, back in the 80s, he used to call Morgan the little Southern of South. We went through a transition of a band director because we had John Newsom, and a lot of, John Newsom is a what? He's a Jew. So, of course, there's going to be some style crossover back then. But I say you can't out Southern because I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Southern. I'm actually giving all the respect to Southern. You're trying to outdo somebody in something that they have perfected and they have put the clock hours in. Um, with that being said, get us back into this question because, we could digress all day long. Um, the emphasis for me, I think you're right, Jason. You said the administrators, they don't know anything, but they see you two, and then they coming up to you. I need the band to give me a little something, something. And I'm like, you don't even know what a little something, something takes. A little something, something for a beginner is not a little something, something. You don't know what's required. And I do think with younger band directors, they're more easily influenced in that
Yeah,
realm because you
right.
haven't gotten your toolbox. You haven't settled into what your philosophy of music is. With everything, when we're first born, we covet. And so if somebody and everybody around you is telling you to covet this because this is the way, and you
Mhm.
don't have an identity yet, then I do think it can be I think it be create a false narrative of what you have to do. Then people get in and they realize that you got to turn in lesson plans, and that
Yeah,
evaluation, you ain't gonna get no pay raise. And or they could put you on a PIP, and once you go on a PIP or a performance improvement plan, now they can fire you at will. Who wants to keep, and they're not firing you because you can't make a good band. They're firing you because you
right.
don't understand all the other aspects of the job. I do
Yeah.
think.
If I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead,
go ahead.
Jason. No,
I was
please.
going to say this will probably be my last answer because we're pulling in the parking deck. But
Okay.
yeah, for the administrative side, I've got a few specific examples here. But I know at Albany State, what would happen is kids would get within a year or so when they were supposed to graduate, and they would take like the what I consider to be the shortcut. With a music education degree, you had to have 5 methods classes: woodwinds, brass, strings, percussion, vocal. You had to take all of those. You had to take your band techniques classes, etc. And they would see a path where, oh, I'll get the uh, Bachelor of Arts in Music degree and I can skip all that. And they would do that and graduate a little early. But then as soon as they graduate, ain't too much to find for a job. They end up trying to teach and they're not certified. The last job I interviewed for, middle school job in town, that principal really wanted the drum line to be in the parades and all that kind of stuff. But they hired a kid that was not certified. And my last job that I was teaching at, that I quit from, that principal, or excuse me, as the assistant principal and athletic director, he was asking me about some things. What can we do to grow the marching band? I told him what some problems were because he asked me. He was asking what some solutions might be. But he didn't like when I told him all of those problems. He ended up asking me twice, and I'm not paraphrasing. Couldn't we put some kids out there, put something in their hands, and let them fake it? And
Mhm. I've heard that
that is
before.
what made me quit.
Yeah. I've been told
Oh
that a
boy.
number of times. I've been told just they not really playing anyway. I say no. When you come in my room, the kids are playing, and just to get out there and fake it is one. It's disrespectful to what actually happens when you're not
Right.
in my room
The
asking
good
me.
the kids that are playing are not going to want to keep going.
Right. Because you now belittled all the time, effort, work, academic knowledge they have to put into this specific skill set. And that was kind of where I was too. I walked away. I said, if you just gonna throw last names A through Z and want us to perform every other day, like I was at a school what they wanted in the first 3 weeks, my beginner band L through Z to perform for senior inaugurations and all those things. And I did that for 12
Wow.
years. I did that type of band, A through Z, L through Z, whatever, for my entire career, like the majority. And I came out the pandemic. They went to block scheduling. They said, well, I actually, a lot of people don't know, they tried to outsource my job to the school next door. And I taught all girls. They wanted the girls to go over there just for marching band and was going to take away band as a class. And I said, that's it. I'm not doing this. That's why I said, I'm not doing this. You're saying to me that you're going to send girls who are empowered by another Black woman, which most of them were Black young ladies, beginners on instruments for sure, to go send them to the boys' side of the school to just crank up, basically. Forget your learning and getting into college. And I have several music educators now. They're in the field. Forget all of those kids who have come out and become the future in education. Nah, they let's just go. I said, no, I ain't doing this.
Well,
Yeah, I love y'all, but
it's
I got to go.
interesting that.
Yep, thank
All
you.
right, brother.
Enjoy your birthday.
It's a birthday. Yes, indeed.
But
Well, it's
that
coming
is,
up. Couple of weeks.
yep. And tune in for the rest, man.
Yeah.
I want to like thank Jason because Jason Hyde, he was in Monroe. He had a good band. We're not talking somebody who was a fluff band director,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
armchair band director, like they say, Barino. Um,
Yeah.
but with that being said, do you think we need more or less requirements to be a band director now?
I think there has to be the requirements as they are. I mean, if you're looking at it coming out of college or at least on the collegiate side, that curriculum for music education, that's pretty much cut and dry in most places. Where the problem lies is with these districts, these administrators are allowing. Um, I remember the first time I heard an administrator say, "Oh, well, we're just going to get somebody in because they had the experience with the band." And I will go on the record to say to anybody who's watching this that's not certified and is teaching, this is not me condemning you because I was you. When I started, I came out with a bachelor's in performance from Grambling and got my master's in music ed at Alabama State. So I had been teaching for a few years prior to getting certified. But the difference was I was in a certification program and I had actually completed all the education courses at Grambling. So I had some things I had to come up that made me have to leave the degree. It happens. But in the end,
You had what you needed.
yeah, yeah, I knew what I was walking into, and had great principals who a great principal who understood what what that meant. Now, when you have administrators that don't know band, it creates an entirely unrealistic situation. And they live by unrealistic situations. You remember watching the movie Drumline? The
Mhm.
whole, the I think he was the president of the school showing up. I want my boy on the field now. That dude there. What we
Mhm.
didn't realize is that's very accurate more often than not. And I would love to say, without saying too much, that that belief in just make it happen is only reserved for grade school band. It's not.
It's not.
And I'll leave it. I will not get too far into it, but I will say,
That's another show.
yeah, I have come across administrators that, he said he left because they just wanted to throw something up there. Um, I've been in a similar seat. There has been an administrator that was like, well, yeah, we want this student up here to do this and this and this, but we don't have a recital class. So they're not prepared to go and play solo. All those majors and y'all ain't got. you don't know because you don't know.
You don't know because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, but when you sit in seats of power, you're easily it's easy to assume. Because the football team is regardless if they win or lose, the football team gonna make it happen, whatever. So now there's an unrealistic. Oh Lord, there's an unrealistic goal created for that band side. Yeah, I think that to be yeah, and as far as the standard. Like, I have students that are graduating in music that I know want to be music teachers, but you want the shortcut. Whoever's idea this was to allow that to have become a thing, shame, shame. Because I don't mind anybody going straight out of music performance with a music performance degree and becoming a teacher because it's happening more often than not.
Yes, it is.
But you don't understand you're pushing deficiency out the door to higher deficiency in the door to again push future deficiencies out the door.
Deficiency begots deficiency. Like once
Yes.
you're only gonna learn you're gonna learn to the deficiency of who's in front of you.
Right.
And I
Because
agree.
while I'm teaching music, to your point earlier, what about the rest of it?
Hmm.
How many times have you done a lesson plan? Oh, well, that's easy. No, it's not. Do you understand the state and national standards in which you have to, you know, actually present when principals walk in the room? It's one of the first things that they're looking for. When little Jimmy is over here acting up, are you gonna deal with him like you would have when you were in your college band? Is that's your defining way of dealing with discipline? Because if that's what you're going with, you won't be on that job too long.
And thank so Bruno, I tell my music educators, people don't know my college gig. I call it Bruce Wayne is my band director gig at Suitland. That's a VPA program. That's you know, my quote unquote bread and butter. But my Dark Knight gig is I teach the next generation of band directors. That is literally what I do at UMBC. I take them from their method classes all the way to now my internship class, which is K through 12. And
Right.
one, I get to watch their growth, but the beautiful thing in it is I get to make sure that they're prepared on all the facets. Yeah,
Right.
you can have a good band and they still want to outsource your job. I, I'm being honest. I still to this day say it was going to be very hard for my district to replace me. And after I left, it became very evident of how hard it is to replace me. And that's not talking directly to the program. I'm talking about the district at large. Like you lost an educator,
Right.
and they don't make them like that no more. We are kind of a dying breed, and
Right.
so um, I try to make sure that they know that it's gonna be more about. It's not gonna be always about playing. Hinder myth. It's like you. The first of all, the likelihood you're gonna have a grade 6 ensemble in today's society, not just HBCU, PWI, period, because there's so many distractors. Um,
Right.
there's so many distractors. We really, really hurt kids in the long run when we allow deficiency to garner their future. Like that's what we're doing, right? You you can't teach what you
Right.
don't know. I have a senior who said that in our group chat like 30 minutes ago. You can't teach what you don't know. I ain't even talking about if you
Hmm.
know it a little bit or bad at it. I'm just saying, but the absence of intelligence you can't
Hmm.
obtain it until you learn it.
Right. Right.
So
Well,
that's the
in
quality.
a lot of cases, that lack of knowledge fosters, um, what's the term? Imposter syndrome.
Mm,
And it happens a lot. And hey, I was guilty of it until I had that right person,
hmm
that right instruction that looked at me and said, okay, yeah, you can't fake through this one.
Yeah, you can't fake this.
Imposter
You got to
syndrome will
know.
always catch up with you. So when they ask you to put on certain concerts and you're doing a tribute to Motown using your marching band arrangement of Get Ready as your intro, oh no. That means you don't have a knowledge of band literature and it's showing.
Or even the
So when
style, the other
yeah,
style that it came from, because marching band is a style too.
yeah. Because and going back to, I think in my introduction, I was mentioning before my doorbell rang that, I was I came from a high school. We did not participate in festivals. We had concerts, but we didn't have, we didn't play any of the more challenging stuff. We played a little bit of, Swerving,
I swear, engines and
a few
some stuff,
Hazos.
some Smiths and some,
But shout
yeah.
out to Warren Shaw. It was quite a few Warren Shaw pieces on that concert. So, it was a cultural thing. We tried to play to the strengths of what everybody wanted to hear, even with concerts. So, in essence, we didn't do as much of that material. I know my high school band director wanted to. No doubt in my mind, he wanted to, but he also knew the strengths and weaknesses of his group. And also he knew how that small community could be. Um, but yeah, back to the main point there. I don't know what I don't know. I try not to touch too heavily on that one because again, I know some outstanding band directors who don't have as many qualifications as I or you. But at the same time, I want them to understand there are doors that you are leaving closed because you refuse to enhance your learning, and you're also hindering your students from learning certain stuff. Yeah, it's it, music is music is music is music, but if they pull transcripts,
Mm.
this was one I had to evaluate about my own. If they pull your transcript, well, what does it say about you?
Say about you.
What
They
does it
say
say
numbers
about
don't
you?
lie, and that's we quantify everything.
Yeah.
Not cut you. I just kind of wanted to add to that when you talk about someone who quote unquote doesn't have the qualifications. I want to kind of revamp what we think qualifications is.
Hey,
I think
yes.
clock hours under a master teacher is
Whoa.
just as important as the clock
Ooh.
hours you have in the lab, which I call college. College is a lab.
College is
All of
black.
the controls are there. It's a you pretty much got nothing but placebos. You don't have a true um thing to fix or true skill because a lot of times your college students are already coming in beyond that basic level. When you
Right.
go to especially middle school, I always tell people you gotta teach middle school first. You gotta teach beginners. You want to know if you can teach beginners. But when you are outside of the lab, if you have a master teacher in your building, but you're not certified and you actually study like they are like it's an apprenticeship, I
Right.
do believe that you could be just as qualified. Um, but that takes a disciplined person.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a transparent person to say, I'm sitting under this teacher because this teacher knows stuff that I don't. But here's where I have the problem with qualifications. You have people who have tried and true products that span the test of time.
Right.
It spans demographic, it spans race, it spans socioeconomic status, and they tell you, hey, dog, like I was told my first year of middle school, I had a group. My band director, he said I got adjudicated by Dr. Miles my first year as a middle school band director. I got
Mm.
eaten alive. It was everything he said was right. Everything was said because I had to be transparent with myself. He's like, yeah, I know what quality is, and yeah, you're right. Even for the age, there's some things that I did not know I shouldn't have picked this literature. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know enough literature. I knew the stuff I liked, but I ain't know enough literature. I
Right.
and so what gets me is when someone does know what they're talking about. This is what's driving me nuts about this. And here comes somebody who has not done what we call the beyond the lab hours. We're talking about that real clock hours, time on the clock in multiple situations, tested, you know, road tested.
Right.
Say, hey, this your clarinets can't play with your fingers flapping like that. That's why they can't play over the break. If I say that to you, that's not me telling you you suck. That's me telling you that the skill that you need for them to do it, you've
Right.
skipped that skill or you don't know that there's a skill in between. And then people say, you don't know what you talk about. We're your grade six ensemble. First of all, there aren't too
Right.
many grade six ensembles left. But I got a
Yeah.
grade five ensemble, so I can walk around with that on my chest now. Like I got a grade
Well,
five
here's
ensemble.
another question: is your grade six, and is your superior better question? Is your superior program truly superior,
Mm,
or are these the standards placed upon you post COVID? Or because there was this thing, well, hey, listen, the bands are back playing. Let's just, you
yep.
know, yeah,
Encouraged that they're playing.
yeah. We're just happy that you guys are playing, and yeah, we want to know for sure of this, but everybody has to be coachable, even the
Yep.
ones that have the credential. There are some things that those of a degree does not measure your ability to teach.
No, not
The
at all.
degree is not the measurement of your teaching
Not at all.
ability. It's teaching. Nothing that I don't care how many observations and anything else that you do, the only thing to prepare you for teaching is teaching.
It's teaching. It's getting
But
out the lab.
but you
And
gotta
you
have those observation hours. Those things are key because otherwise, I think about like the band directors who come out of music, not music education, and go straight into teaching with just a music degree. And I really think about how much they missed.
yeah.
You didn't get a chance to go, as you say, and see that model teacher do this. Okay, well, my high
And there
school
is a
band
model teaching
director,
in the building.
yeah, my high school band director did this, and my college band director did that. Yeah, but there are some things you're gonna have to do. Many states now are not letting you get by without taking your kids to concert
Hmm.
festival.
My district told me the first year I could go for comments only. After that, if I want to keep my job, I got it. They got to go. And then because it's a
Hmm.
BPA program, regardless of the kids that audition or don't, by the way, we
Right.
still have to play at least, listen, at least a grade four,
Hmm.
at the very least. And some people wouldn't be able to take that job because you got to know how to teach a grade three to teach a four. You got to be able to know how to teach a grade two to teach a three. And you got to be able to know
Hmm.
how to teach a one to play all of it. Like, believe it or not, they all work hand in hand. But
They all
um,
do.
I got a question. I'm going to throw this out there. Um,
Okay.
this is a troublemaking one. Do we give
Oh.
too much slash too little credit to skills like arranging and drill writing as a band director?
Do we give too little credit to it?
Too much or too little? Giving you a choice.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Um. Whew. And you know what? I'm gonna be the oddball out because I could even be condemning myself because I use this as a caveat coming out of what I had done at Alabama State. I was like, hey, this is gonna be the opportunity, this, that, and the third. And then I went on, in my career later on. I say that like I'm forever old. But later on, I ran into some people, and the comment was, well, you were just an arranger. They
Mm,
didn't see the behind the scenes of things that I did. Nobody cared but what they saw on Saturday. Oh, you were just an arranger.
wow.
That's what you did. Not the teaching. The students knew better, but to the
Yep.
outside eye, that's what you were. Do I think that there's too much emphasis given or too little? In some cases, too little. In some cases, too much. Because I'm willing to say making being an arranger does not. It's not synonymous with you being a great band director.
No, it's not.
It's not. Being able to arrange saves you money with your band.
Yes,
Yay!
Lord.
That
Yes, you
you
do.
do that. It saves you a lot of money. But it doesn't save your life when you're sitting there and your group is getting judged. It just doesn't. It doesn't save you when a student has an altercation and you don't know how to deal with that. It doesn't save you when you have parents that are ready to go to war with you because you failed to make sure the kids ate because you didn't know how to do that requisition.
Yeah,
It does
there you
not
go.
help you.
Doesn't help you.
It just doesn't always help you. So you have to know the rest of it. There are other elements of it that you have to be uh at least proficient, if not knowledgeable. Let's say that knowledgeable
Knowledgeable. Knowledgeable.
of. Now there are some people that are totally different. Um, because I used to hear this all the time, and I'm a fervent believer in it. You do not just anybody can stand there and wave their hands and see what comes out.
True.
You don't want to be that person. But just because you're an outstanding arranger does not guarantee that you're a great teacher. And if you got both, that's awesome too. That's wonderful. Pass on your wisdom. Don't create an ego. Pass on your wisdom because it's a lot of egos in this game right now that
Yeah.
don't need to be there. Um, because honestly, without some people having a good budget to buy songs from Jackson and songs from Alcorn and Southern and all of the, if you didn't have that, and if
Yeah.
you didn't have YouTube to play it on the screen, what would you have?
What would you have? But see, Bruno, I'm gonna play devil's advocate on my own question, right?
Uh oh. Uh
When you
oh.
say too little credit, I think we don't put enough credit into why being an arranger is an asset as a teacher.
Ah, I see what you did there.
You see where I'm gonna spin it because I know sometimes my guests think that I always agree, but I'm gonna spin it in a different way. The benefit of being an arranger for me
Mm-hmm.
is that I know the strengths and weaknesses of my ensemble.
Absolutely.
But it's not something that I should put a lot of credit in if I know how to arrange, but ignore the ensemble in front of me for the ensemble down the street by giving them the crank up from this school that works for their school. And then I'm gonna give them the same arrangement. No, I damn well ain't got no trumpets that can play up there. No damn well that I got freshman clarinet players. No damn well that I got tuba players who are former trumpet players learning how to play tuba because you ain't get none. Um, that arranging skill is only an
Not only
asset
that,
that
not only
you
that,
know how to use it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, my bad.
No,
Not only that, but I know not to write this part for this part, I know the practicalities of the instrument. Not a
mm-hmm.
lot of people know practical range anymore. And so when
No,
I've
we just
seen
write
some
it.
of
They
these
can do it.
arrangements, yeah, we going for the sky, but hey, hey, it's a whole life down there in the middle of the horn, and there's the 8VA tool, but we won't use that.
Nope.
We won't get into it. We
You
assume
gotta
that
get up
every
there.
kid can play in the
Gotta blow
heavens.
that hole.
Yeah, we assume everybody's able to play in the heavens.
Gotta blow that hole. But here's my problem. So God said that you should live life and life that more abundantly. That's on earth. You got clarinet players that don't know how to play on the break. See, we always talk about over the break, but guess what? The meat of clarinet playing, real virtuosic clarinet playing is in all three registers. Well, if your kids never touched with fidelity one of the more difficult registers, your kids just screaming in the wind, I call it. But that practicality of range, you learn in methods courses, like the one I teach on Monday nights and Wednesday nights. I say, hey, you got beginners? Don't start them with a C on the staff as a beginner trumpet player, y'all. They need to get the lip, they need to learn how to buzz, and they need to know how to support the tones in a more comfortable range. So when they do build those skills, it will be more that solid. But no, and so I go to judge, and I'm not gonna say I'm an easy judge, I'm a hard judge, I'm a realistic judge, and I'd be like, hey, you need to spend some more time on this range of the instrument with your saxophones or your trombones, because I can tell that they only spend time in this range. And that is why actually having music classes makes sense. You can learn that from a master teacher. I really believe you could. But the amount of structure you'd have to have within yourself, and the amount of time that mentor teacher would have to be ready to give to you, would have to supplement that you might get in clock hours in a formal classroom. I'm gonna say formal. I'm not gonna say that. And so why is it little too much or too little credit? It's the tool that I don't think we always know how to use, if that makes sense, Barino. Now, I don't know if you got bumped out or not. I feel like maybe we've been having some ghetto signals. But I'm gonna put this in the chat, and hopefully you get put back in. I'm putting in the chat this question: who should not be a band director? And then maybe Marino will get unbound. Who should not? And if you would like to join the show, I think we've been having technical issues all day. Who should not be a band director? If you're in the chat, let me know what type of person should not. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. People who are gonna touch the money or the kids. Let's. I'm gonna go there just a little bit. Who should not? People who will touch the money or the kids. And I think Marino might have got bumped out, but this might be a good time, Julian, because this is the last question. If you want to come on and talk about it, if you want to address who do you think should not, because that is the topic. Oh, Barino said his service went to the pits. I ain't want to say it, but yeah. So if we can put in the chat the link to the show, if you would like to answer that question. But I think a hardcore one for me is, if you want to touch the money, if it's going to be somebody who ain't got no self-control, you're going to touch the money, or even worse, the kids, because that is a break of trust that we just can't get back. You said I spoke the truth. Thank you, Grace. That's absolute no. And I think sometimes we know those type of people, but because they bring that fire, they got fire arrangements, and they can really teach good. And yeah, that's all that matter. We can forgive that. Would you forgive it if it was your own? Would you forgive it if it was your own kid? Let's just be real. If it was your own kid, I don't know if we got anybody in that's clicked on that link, but just something to think about. I think we need to stop being so accepting of egregious acts for our band lust, because I promise you there are other band directors out there that can do the job, and we kind of deify band directors, make them into deities, and we make them into deities, and then when they mess up and we knew that they had an issue, we like, yeah, but, and then we watch, it's like, no, yeah, but you wouldn't tolerate it with your daughter, your son, your sister, your brother, your other. you wouldn't tolerate it, that should be an absolute no to me. It's an absolute no. I have no respect if that is what you think is acceptable. If um, you like them as a band director, I don't like anybody that's going to sullen the craft of what we do and we work hard to do. Ronald, she said, I don't like how people flip the script. They support the bad ones because it's their friends, but try to drag others. That, like, cut it out with that. Let's say who should not be anybody who's not willing to be kid centered or student centered. And what I mean by student centered, I'm not talking about catering to their whining and their inconsistencies because they're still developing. I'm talking about kid centered, that what the kid is going to get out of this means more to you than you mean to what you think they're going to get out of being in front of you, if that makes sense. Make it about the program, make it about the kids, make it about the experience, make it about the growth, make it about hopefully in some cases you're creating the next you or the next better than you. That's how I tell my students, y'all better than me. You know more than I did at this age, and that is me doing my job. And the moment that you don't have anything left to learn, or I've given you all I can, that is the next level that you need to go to. You said they make it about themselves, not the program. I think bad band directors need to realize when they are past their prime, and that's a real one. Just, I think who should not be a band director is somebody that is just going through the ropes. The singing of band change, and devil's advocate, yeah, some people have started to cater to that scenery change, and that's not always a bad thing, until it starts being student centered. To me, that's my I don't know, that's how I feel about it. I don't know if anybody agrees or not, um, but that is how I feel about it. The moment that you you're not willing to grow yourself as an educator is the minute I think you should not be a band director anymore. Um, I'll throw out another one. I think the moment that um, you are going to work in more strife than life, okay? If you're going to work in more strife than life, then maybe you shouldn't be a band director anymore. And that's not always a bad thing, because being in a band director in 21st century and modern post-pandemic education is stressful and hard and time consuming. Um, but you got to be still getting something out of it so the kids can gleam off of that. And if you ain't got nothing left, that's why I really left. I said, I'm more angry than I'm happy. Uh, and I don't want to take it out on the kids. It ain't the kids' fault. Um, they just a kid. It'd be a war zone some days. Amen to that. So who should not be a band director? Um, if you two, I don't think age is the right way to go. I'll say when you when your brain has become too rigid and you just no longer seek out how to do it better. I know some band directors or some music educators who go to conferences they're still learning. Came out the pandemic, they're Gen X and back, and said, I'm gonna learn how to do this. Shout out to Pratt. Pratt called me, was like, I'm a student. He says, I gotta figure this thing out. Krystal, can you help me in my district? And that's the type of educator I want to go out as. And when I'm done, I want to bow out gracefully. I don't want to be holding on to holding kids hostage, holding, a position hostage because I'm too selfish to pass it on to the next. So I think who should not be a band director is somebody who makes a mockery of what it takes to be a band director. When I say a mockery, oh man, you ain't got to do all that. I don't want to pigeonhole my kids into any style of music. Like if they come to me and they want to do an anime show, and the majority of them are like, we like anime, I'm not gonna be like, well, I went to a HBCU and this is what I do. Um, I'm going to try to cater to or take in consideration, because I don't cater to the kids. I take in consideration um, the things that they come up with too. And sometimes they have really great ideas. They do. They have really great ideas, and I'm like, that's a good idea. I give credit where credit's due. But the moment that you make a mockery of it and you start laughing at people who actually are trying to work at being better at it, um, if you're not good under pressure, yeah, and that's an educator thing. Like that's why people quit at Christmas. They, if you don't have good coping skills, you can't be a band director. If you don't have good coping skills and know how to, I want to say, just let it roll off your sleeve. Like if you get upset when kid come in and gonna have a tantrum and like they do sometimes, hey, that's one of them another moments. But we're approaching the hour. I don't think anybody clicked the link that want to share what they're gonna say. um I'm looking to the chat. Julian, if you said no, but all in all, I think who should be a band director? We I think that's a question that the band community, especially our HBCU band community that I am a part of, needs to put back on the front burner. Well, we can say who should not, but who should? And are we actually giving who should a chance? That's what I'm gonna say. Are we giving the who shoulds? Are we still holding on to some biases? Listen, I'm a woman. Some of y'all nasty to us. I'm gonna tell you straight on my own show. Some of y'all are nasty, and some of y'all prejudge, and we get disproportionate dish rag programs compared to some of y'all, and it is what it is. If race can be a factor, so can sex. And if you're a black woman, you got race and sex as a factor. I've had people look at me like, oh, is she? I've been questioned every position I've ever gotten, and I have to spend months proving that I can do it just as good. It just is what it is. You can't say racism exists and then some of my cisgender men be like, well, I ain't never met a good girl band director. Have you ever sat in the classroom level, or you just kind of make your own assumptions based off of some biases you holding on to? I think if you are myopic in your thinking about who's the students that may not represent you in the classroom, you should be a band director. If you're not willing to let boys dance, you just refuse. Well, think of like this: DCI's had color guard, and color guard it's never had a gender. I think it's time to hang it up and bow out gracefully. Don't leave cussing and fussing about it. It times do change, and unless it's making worse musicians, bye bye. Are they worse musicians? No. So that is the end of today. We had some glitches. We had some all kinds of things. If you could hit that like button on the way out, if you haven't, you can still hit the share button, let people hear it on the replay, and buy some merchandise, please. A hoodie, if you will, a sweatshirt. We got a new logo, and the new logo creating that for me, and we'll see you in, I want to say, 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. Nope, the day after Thanksgiving with Dr. Tamisha Price Brock. We are going to have another discussion. I don't want to give it out until Julian make it a topic, because if I change my mind, then I'm stuck. All right, y'all have a good one. Good night.